This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, we've packed a number of shows together to give you some highlights. I know you're going to enjoy the show. Thank you for being with us today. Treva, I'm honored to meet you and to have you on the show. I know you have some amazing skill sets that the majority of our listeners are going to learn so much from and are going to benefit from their businesses. And I'm looking forward to the conversation. But before we do, give them a little bit more detail about who you are and your business, your focus, and then let's jump in.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. Well, I have been in business for about 10 years now. I am the CEO and founder of Bloom Personal Branding. We've been around since 2013. I started out really more so in the image and executive impression business, helping people present themselves, communication skills, all of those kind of soft skills, that we talk about in the business world. But I eventually started working with people on building their brands. And so this included entrepreneurs, leaders, so on and so forth. Things kind of morph and change over the years. And so for these last probably 5 years of my business, it's been really focused on helping people build their personal brand and how and why that matters in our world today. I think a lot of people don't fully understand how important it is. And hopefully by the end of today, you'll have a better grasp of it and how it can help you succeed in your business.
Yeah, it's a very important topic, and I think it's something that is often minimized or just thought, oh, that's not I don't really need that type of
Yeah.
thing, or but
Yeah.
so let's start at a very high level, just so the listeners can
hmm
understand the importance of a personal brand. And so, what is a personal? Oh, yeah, what is a personal brand? Why would I do that versus this business brand that I've been focused on for so long?
hmm Well, I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make, whether they're an entrepreneur or a leader, is they start out with trying to market themselves before they really truly understand who they are and what makes them unique. And personal branding is really another word for reputation. We all have a reputation, whether we realize it or not. And that reputation is what is going to connect you to your audience, to the people around you, to the people you want to establish relationships with or do business with. So that's really basically what it is. It's your reputation, and your reputation then really is an assessment of your trustworthiness. So people are going to check you out and make sure that you are someone they want to do business with. And, just kind of seeing, is this someone I can like? Are they warm, friendly, knowledgeable? Will I trust them? So
Yeah.
that's kind of basically what it is.
And why focus on a personal brand versus just like being solely focused on building our business brand?
Yeah. Well, that's really where the relationship begins, in my opinion. Let's just take real estate, for example. Real estate agents are a dime a dozen. There's lots and lots of agents out there. But it's like, why would someone want to do business with you? And that's really where personal branding comes in. Branding used to be about companies, so for example, take Century 21 Real Estate, the back in the day when they wore the gold jackets, and, that was kind of the gold standard, right? It's like I could work with anyone at Century 21 because of the company brand. But there's been a huge shift in the marketplace now, and people don't do business with companies anymore. They do business with people. Just through some research that I've done, millennials, for example, do a lot of their business through learning and gaining testimonials or endorsements from other people. So they're not really just looking at a company anymore, like, wow, that's great. It's got to be, they're going to do business with the person that's in the company, no matter what company it is. So
I
hopefully
can
that makes sense.
it does. It makes a ton of sense. And the listeners would know this about me, I hope anyway. I talk about it pretty often or at different times on the show. And we're like helping them to think it through how they're raising money from investors, right? How are you connecting to
Mhm,
investors? How are they building those relationships? And I've talked often where this really happened. The Lord just had a plan here. I mean, because I didn't have this planned out, but I saw it start to work, Treva, where when I first started networking really hard in this business, I was brand new, and I would meet people at a conference. There's thousands of potential people there, and I'll talk
mhm,
to as many people as I possibly can, just like everybody else is doing, right? Trying to meet investors, but everybody shakes their hand and says, "Well, what do you do?" Right? And I
mhm.
immediately lead with our foundation, or the way we want to help families adopt children and get past the financial burden of adoption, and those things. And so I focus on that, and then I say, hey, we do that through our commercial real estate business, right? And so investors get to play a
Mhm.
role in this, but it doesn't affect their returns. Well, that immediately changes the whole conversation dynamic. And then, to fast forward here, when I follow up with them a week, even if it's 2 weeks later, hopefully it's not that long, but if it is, they still remember me even if they talk to 100 people that day, right?
Mhm.
Because it was very different, and there was a conversation than everybody else, and there was a relationship component that I started seeing happen versus me just talking about LifeBridge Capital.
Yes, absolutely. That is so important. And, each of us have our careers, right? We're known in our career by what we do, but we also have to have something else about us to talk about that humanizes us. And that is a huge part of personal branding. And what you just said with adopting children and all of that, my husband and I have an adopted child. So
Wow.
right
See, I didn't
there,
even know that. Just so the listeners know, I did not
yeah,
know
I mean,
that.
so right now I'm thinking that draws me to want to know more about you and what you do. And so it's that feeling, it's that energy, that emotion. That is what drives the relationship, probably more so than, oh, I'm an investment banker or a venture capitalist or whatever, whatever it is that you do. And so it doesn't matter if it's something very personal and the whole adoption thing, but it could be talking about maybe you have a love of dogs or you hike mountains or whatever it is. There's got to be something else about you that is unique to you that people are going to remember you by. And that's a perfect example of what you just said. The people that you networked remember you more for your maybe your foundation
That's right.
than the other part of who you are. So very, very good point.
Speak to someone that's struggling to find that unique piece that helps them stand out. Because I feel like often it's a big struggle, right? I've talked about that on the show
Yes.
before, and people may say, "Well, Whitney, that's like I don't know how I'm so different than the other guy that's got the same kind of business, right?" Or
Yeah.
what is that thing for me? How have you maybe helped people, or maybe an example?
Yes. Well, and that really is the key right there. How are you going to differentiate yourself from everybody else around you? And that is where you really have to spend some time thinking about who you are. What problem do I solve for my clients and customers? What makes me unique? Why would they choose me over somebody else? And so, for example, I'll just use myself as an example, but the problem that I determined that I solve for people is self-doubt.
Mm,
In my business, I work with a lot of people who are unsure of themselves and they're insecure. There's this new business owner that wants to, start a business, but they're full of this insecurity and worry. with the problem that I solve for people, my uniqueness is the flip side of that. It's confidence. So I help people build their confidence to be better leaders, to be better networkers, to start businesses. But it's really going through a series of questions and asking yourself, you know, what am I good at? What's my secret sauce? What do people come to me for? What do I research on my own time? If you kind of just start digging deep that way into really your values, your passions, your purpose, your strengths, that's where your personal brand is going to live in those things. So that's where I would start.
I think it's a good list of questions just to think through, no matter how established you think your business is. But as you're trying to build this personal brand, like you're talking about, what are you good at, and the secret
Hmm.
sauce. I was just in a meeting yesterday, and somebody was struggling to think through on the team, even some as we're laying out like SOPs, things like that, and they're like, all these things that we do. How do we document? And that was one of the questions. I said, well, what do people come to you for? Like, I need you
Uh-huh.
to write those things down. you know,
Yes.
like what do people come to you for? So it's interesting here that, that's a uniqueness, right? That you have. Obviously, people are asking you because they already have the confidence in you that you know this thing.
Hmm. Yes, absolutely. If you can determine the problem you solve, what your unique value is, you can then come up with this sort of brand vision or message, your brand message. And so, for example, I was talking about the problem I solve is self-doubt. My uniqueness is confidence. My message really is weaved in everything that I do, and that is believe in yourself. So it doesn't matter if I'm talking to friends just on a friendship level or talking to clients or I'm writing content for social media. The common thread in all of that, in what I say and what I do, is my brand message, believe in yourself. I might not be actually saying those words every time, but that's how I present myself, and that's authentic to me.
Speak to, maybe help the listener think about the end goal of the personal brand, right? Is it, maybe they have a, something they're selling, under that personal brand, or maybe, they have a real estate business similar to us where, they're raising money from investors over here, they're buying commercial real estate, but this personal brand kind of complements, it's almost like the first door into the house, right? To building that relationship, to getting them over here to then teach them about what we do in real estate. Or what are your thoughts on like the end goal of the personal brand?
Mhm. Well, of course, the end goal of personal branding, I don't know if it ever really ends, but
Sure.
I can speak to that. For example, if you are someone who is in sales and what do you need in sales? Well, you need leads, you need to close the sales. And so if your brand is working for you, you should be generating more sales and more leads. If you are in leadership and you are building teams and your teams are actually like flowing and working together so well, and you're expressing your uniqueness to help your team, then to me that's a win, because that says that those employees like you, trust you, follow you. If you have a product, they're probably going to buy from you. So it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. But the more that you really immerse yourself into what what is it about me that I can help serve other people with, because that's really the bottom line. It's about taking that unique value about yourself and exploiting it by serving other people. And
Yeah.
that's what I always think about, is how can I take me, my uniqueness, and serve other people?
What do we need in a personal brand? What are some of the mechanical things or between website and social media? And we hear all these different things that, man, it can be quite overwhelming, right? When we think about all these things that, oh my goodness, I need to be posting on how many sites, or I need to be doing what, or
Right.
with my website, or help us break that down a little bit, so we can all understand and see what we need.
Yes. Well, first of all, in business, if I wouldn't worry so much right away to get a website going. I mean, even if you just have a Facebook page to get started with, Facebook seems to be it's the largest social media platform with, over 1 billion people on it. But I would, definitely set up probably some type of business Facebook page just to get you started, and just start of obviously connecting with your own personal contacts, and kind of expanding. Again, those building social media following takes a lot of time, and effort. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but if you're ready to create that first website for yourself, um, it's really important, again, having that brand development now created versus, making the mistake that I did when I started, 10, 11 years ago. I was creating all these websites and doing all these things, but yet I forgot about the brand development. And so now you've got the brand development, you've got the problem you solve, your uniqueness, your message, who you are, what you stand for, your secret sauce. It's all ready to go. And you're building a following now, and you are ready for a website. One of the first things that I would think about are colors. And every color has a different feeling or a different meaning to it, right? Reds are more, vibrant, energetic, strong, passionate. Blues are trustworthy, classic. Greens are little bit more earthy, harmonious, those types of things. But do a little bit of research on your colors, and those colors should match your personality. I think, a lot of times people, they may not give a whole lot of thought to color, but color truly matters. And remember, your brand is all about creating emotion and connectability, and colors do that as well. So colors matter, and even the font matters. So if your personality is big and bold, then choosing fonts that match that. If you're a little bit more feminine, elegant, depending upon, you and the audience that you are working with, you might want to choose something, that's a little bit more scripted. So fonts and colors matter. And I'd probably work with someone, like a creative person who does specialize in websites, can kind of help you with that. And they'll create this brand guide for you so that you know exactly your fonts and colors and all of that. And that should just flow seamlessly into any of your marketing materials or flyers or things that you create. So don't
Yeah.
forget about those.
That's interesting detail, because I would say, early on, that is where I never placed enough importance on those things. On
Mhm.
something, it seems so simple to the colors and font, right?
Mhm.
And even just having that, just brand, those things that highlight our brand, and having them documented, so I know, and every time we create something on the website or a new page on the, like, it needs to follow that, right? We
Mhm.
didn't we didn't think about that in that detail early on, and I wish we had of. But okay, so let's say we have the color and the font. What's some of the next things?
Yeah. Well, some businesses, well, I think most businesses have like a special logo. And maybe your logo is just your name. but have a creative person maybe come up with a cool way to present your name. My company is Bloom, so obviously that has something to do with a flower. Another part of my brand that I talk about sometimes is my love of flowers. And so, I may talk about that in some of my social media posting, but I've always felt that flowers are a symbol of growth, growing, thriving, achieving. That's kind of a part of my brand, and I help people do that. I help them grow, thrive, and achieve, and that's a flower. So I incorporated that personal side of me into my logo, and sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on what your business is, but your logo is really your visual identity. And so take some time and put some thought into what you would like your logo to be.
Yeah. I find that a logo can be a major sticking point or hold up at times.
Yes.
It's like, oh, is it
Yes.
right? Should it be this? Oh, I don't really like it. All these
Yeah.
things. But, I guess how stuck should we be on, getting it just right? Or, could we change it later?
Well, I would probably caution you on changing it later. That would be something I would not recommend, because this kind of becomes a part of you, your brand, what you're known for. And if you're changing things down the road, that might confuse your tribe, your audience. And well, why would they do that? So, I mean, if you're starting a completely different business, then absolutely you would have to do that. But I think your logo is something that should stay with you and your business, and don't overlook that. I mean, spend time on it and get it right the first time.
All
Yeah.
right. What's after the logo? After we've gone through that hard process of figuring out what the
I
logo is,
know, I
what's
know.
next?
Well, okay, so let's just touch on briefly on brand photography, because this is very important. So don't overlook this part of your brand as well. Again, this is all the visual part of you. So you always want to have a good headshot. You probably need a business headshot, but you also need a lifestyle headshot, something that's not in a suit. I mean, the world today, we live less in suits than when I started my career all those years ago, but uh, some kind of lifestyle shot where maybe you're out in nature, maybe you're drinking a cup of coffee on a cozy couch, or something that's just not too businessy. Because if you do any type of speaking, or you need to submit your photo, for an event or something like that, kind of get the feel of, okay, what are they looking for? Is this a business type thing? Or is this something a little bit more casual and laid back? Just so you have options. So those are two things that I would definitely recommend. And then other photography for your website, or flyers, or brochures, or social media. This is where you want to be showcasing parts of you and your personality. Like one of the shots I think I had taken, I was walking down the street with a client. I think I had my computer or something like that. But just getting some action shots kind of related. I think another one was I was having a cup of coffee with, a friend, or I was sitting and I was actually working with a client. So just different shots in different places, showing you and what you do. And then also it could be other lifestyle shots. If you're talking about you in your bio or the about me section on a website, you might want to have something a little bit more fun and relaxed versus you in in something a little bit more formal. Um, but yeah, just mixing it up and making sure this all ties to your brand and who you are. I might, I also have a photo of me in a field of flowers because that's a part of who I am and I love flowers and it's my logo. So it all ties together.
That makes a lot of sense for your brand, right? Your logo.
Hmm.
I mean, like you said, it connects in a big way.
Yes.
But it does show a different side, potentially than say you sitting in the office, in a very formal attire and on the phone,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, yes. What's going to connect you to your audience isn't necessarily your business photo, in a suit. It's they want to see, what does she do? What does she like? What does she love? Um, it's that emotional connection again. What grounds me and what connects me, the person out there that he or she might also love flowers. They might love coffee. They might love whatever it is I'm talking about on social media. And I can talk a little bit more about that as well.
Yeah,
But
I
yes,
think that's a great suggestion, and not typically focused on enough are those photos like you're talking about. And so I just did another. I've done this a few times, but another photo shoot, and I'll have this young lady come and spend the day with me almost. That's a really good
yes,
photographer, and I have a friend that who ultimately follows me around and carries a bunch of shirts and jackets and and we just walk all over the place, getting all kinds of
yes,
photos and but some of the points that you made I can relate to. We went downtown around a number of places. We sat in a coffee shop. I even went out and got a horse out and got on his back and rode him around while she's getting photos of that
perfect.
and but of me in the office as well. So it's
Yes.
all kinds of things to show those different things that like you're talking about to build that connection in different ways and that it's you don't have to just be in that suit and tie like I think used to be expected
Mhm.
many years ago.
Absolutely. And don't chintz on the photography. This might be a little bit of an investment, but I wouldn't just be, slapping up iPhone photos. I mean, you need a professional to take some nice photographs.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What's next?
Well, let's just talk a little bit about social media
Yeah.
and how important that is. Now, I was doing a training session one time. This was with a group of real estate agents, and this lady raised her hand and said, I'm not doing any social media. And I said, well, why not? Yeah. And she said, well, I just don't want my personal life on social media. And it's like, I get that. I get that. But if you are not on social media sharing your uniqueness, you're going to miss the boat big time. And it's not like you have to reveal these deep, dark secrets about yourself, but you do have to have a presence on social media. I mean, it's just, you have to you have to be there if you want to be successful in business today. And I had mentioned earlier, having a Facebook business page. The other page that I think is important that some people tend to neglect is Google
So
Business.
grateful for your time and of course, and to meet you. Tell the listeners again how they can get in touch with you and learn more about you.
Yes, yes. If you go to bloompersonalbranding.com, you will find all kinds of information about me, who I am, what I do. And if you are ready to work on your personal brand and need help and assistance, just go to my contact page, book a free call with me, and I can help you get started.
Thank you for being with us again today. I hope that you have learned a lot from the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you're telling your friends about the Real Estate Syndication Show and how they can also build wealth in real estate. You can also go to lifebridgecapital.com and start investing today.